Now, the Bisbee deportation shares with us something about civil liberties being eliminated for war profiteering. When we take a look at that labor lawyer, John Pintek, it is because of his work that we understand something about the Bisbee deportation. It is through his efforts that we have come to understand, historians have come to understand something more about what happened at the Bisbee deportation. And of course, his words are very, very important, students. Get the public stirred up and freedom is out the window. Get the public stirred up and freedom is out the window. How many times have we experienced that in this, since 9/11? Eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. John Pintek was talking about eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. If you're not eternally vigilant, you will lose your liberty. And the Mexicans didn't have any, and the rest not much more. But eternal vigilance is the price of liberty. That's a quote from Thomas Jefferson. So at gunpoint, Mexicans are going to be sent across the border at Columbus. Now, it's going to take a while for those white workers to be sent back to their original homes, which is back in the east in the Appalachian Mountains and New England area, the states where they originated from. They're going to be left out in the desert likewise. But African-American soldiers that are known as Buffalo Soldiers, they were stationed in Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. Those Buffalo Soldiers are going to be recruited to build a tent city for the white workers that were dumped in the desert along with the Mexicans. And these African-American soldiers are going to provide for them housing as well as cook for them while they're being processed and sent back east where they're from, Kentucky, Tennessee, the Appalachian Mountains. So this is an amazing story, straight out from the Arizona's racist legacy. Again, we should not be surprised. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to visit or revisit the National Origins Act of 1924. Now, why is this act so controversial? Again, have you noticed that I've been talking about Native American, the red beans, European, the white beans, African American, the black beans, Asian American, the yellow beans, and then now Mexican, the brown beans. And I've been ending with 1924 in this National Origins Act. And one of the reasons why this is the most controversial act concerning immigration, because it passed both houses of Congress, and it took a long time to come together, this act. It started in 1907, and finally by 1924, the act comes to fruition. But basically, both houses of Congress are reacting to the turbulent white migration of populations to the United States. And so you have to remember, students, that when I talked about aliens, the term aliens, it referred to Europeans at first. Then it's going to be applied to Asians and Mexicans. But the National Origins Act of 1924 was influenced into law by the radicalism of white workers who wanted justice. And that's why the Bisbee deportation, the industrial workers of the world, these white workers, they weren't tolerated. They wanted justice for Mexicans too. That's not right. The United States won't tolerate workers like that. When the 1920s began, the U.S. government made sure that the industrial workers of the world was destroyed, that all radical immigrants were deported, and that the main leader of the Socialist Party, Eugene Debs, was in jail. So in the 1920s, in fact, during and after World War I, strikes by workers are beaten down by force. Congress in the 20s is going to put an end to the dangerous and turbulent flood of immigrants by passing laws setting immigration quotas. Now, the quotas favored Anglo-Saxons. It kept out Africans, it kept out Asians, it limited the arrival of Southern and Eastern Europeans, and it limited the arrival of people from Czechoslovakia or Slavic peoples, the Slavs. It limited the arrival of Jews. English, Protestant, Irish, and German were favored over African, Chinese, and Eastern and Southern Europeans. Now, the National Origins Act is important because it solidified the melting pot theory for white Americans. And please understand the melting pot is for white Americans. It ensured the three-generational process of change, or known as assimilation, as defined in earlier presentations, that this assimilation became a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant privilege. Yes, a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant privilege. That's what the National Origins Act of 1924 is all about. WASPs only apply. Now, at the same time, the KKK is going to be revived in the 1920s, and it's spread into the North. By 1924, the KKK is going to boast 4.5 million members. So the warning sign to immigrants coming to America became cemented in the decade that was known as the Roaring Twenties, the Jazz Age. WASPs only apply. Only WASPs apply. Now, you have to understand that the Jazz Age, that the African tradition is going to be imprinted in the Jazz Age because white Americans are going to try to finally wake up and realize, hey, they really like jazz. And so they'll expropriate that music from the black community and make it theirs.